Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's Thursday with AARP Wisconsin. I am Amber Miller, the hostess of the weekly show and also the Associate State Director of Community Outreach. Before we get started with our guest this week, please, as a friendly reminder, all upcoming virtual events can be located at the AARP Wisconsin website. And we will also talk about a couple upcoming events that might be of interest to you towards the end of the show. And also remember AARP Community Connections. This website has valuable information not only for the AARP Friendly Voice program, but also volunteer opportunities within your local neighborhood, maybe to help a neighbor shovel or rake leaves. And you can find all that information below. So, in the spirit of giving back this holiday season, AARP's Create the Good launched its third annual Honoring Heroes contest to celebrate veterans who help their communities and volunteers who help improve the life of veterans. So, today we're going to be joined with Carole Ricks. She's the advisor of service engagement with the Office of Volunteer Engagement with AARP Wisconsin, and she's going to talk all about this contest. Thank you so much, Carole, for joining us today. Good to see you.
Hi, Amber. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. So this might be, Carole, the first time that folks are actually hearing about this contest, but I do know our founder, Ethel Percy Andros, has a famous quote that embodies the mission and vision of AARP, which is to serve, not to be served. So can you tell us a little bit about the Create the Good and how it aligns with this quote?
Yeah, absolutely. So Create the Good is a website that allows people to find volunteer opportunities. So like what Ethel said, to serve. And this is a way where people can find opportunities to serve, whether it is in their community or virtually. And especially now, because of the pandemic, we are really encouraging people to seek out virtual opportunities. So it's an amazing resource. It is completely free, and it is just an awesome way for organizations and volunteers to make that connection.
And Carole, I'm glad that you talked a little bit about how there's some virtual opportunities because since, of course, COVID has hit this year, there's a lot of folks who still want to give back but aren't really sure how to do that. So the virtual definitely is a great option.
Yeah, absolutely. So we found that with virtual volunteering, that search just exploded with the pandemic. And so we just see a number of organizations that are making that shift from, okay, we used to do in-person volunteering. How do we transition to virtual volunteering? Which means, one, there's a need. There's people who want to do it, but there's tons of organizations that need volunteers who are willing and able to volunteer remotely. So definitely encourage folks to go to createthegood.org and find those various opportunities. I know, Amber, you had mentioned like Friendly Voices. There are a lot of other organizations who are looking for callers in the same way that we have the Friendly Voices program at AARP.
Absolutely. And if you are joining us live today, we are talking with Carole Ricks, the advisor of service engagement with the Office of Volunteer Engagement. It's a long title with AARP. If you have any questions or comments, if you're watching us on Facebook.com, you can post them below. Or if you're on our YouTube channel, please post them and we'll get to them shortly. So Carole, the Create the Good has provided opportunities for the public to acknowledge exceptional volunteers. For example, the Show Your Love Volunteer Contest. Are there any opportunities happening right now?
Absolutely. So the reason why you invited me here was to talk about the Honoring Heroes contest. And this is a great way for the public to recognize amazing veterans in their community who are doing service, in various ways, shapes, and forms. So, we love to honor veterans. They, gave us their service while they were active duty. And we know, and actually research shows that veterans are like the most committed types of volunteers because the service that they did while they were active duty, they continue to have that spirit once they retire and they are veterans. And so we want to make sure that we are acknowledging those amazing veterans who continue to serve in their community by offering up this contest. And so the Honoring Heroes contest allows for the public, you can submit a photo and an essay talking about a veteran who's doing amazing work in the community. Or we don't want to forget about the volunteers who are also supporting veterans in their community. And so you can make a nomination about a veteran or a volunteer who is supporting veterans in their community. The contest launched on Veterans Day. And as you can see, we're calling Honoring Heroes. It will run until December 31st. So we encourage you to submit as many nominations as you can before the deadline. The prize is $1,000 that goes to the winner, and a $1,000 donation that the winner can give to the nonprofit of their choice or the VA medical center of their choice. And you also see on the screen that we have 2 runner-up prizes. $500 goes to each runner-up, as well as the matching donation that goes to the nonprofit of their choice or the VA medical center of their choice.
Great, and it looks like, Carole, we do have a question that we'll pull up. Do you need to be an AARP member to use this?
Arlene, that's a great question. No, you do not. So it is completely open to the public. So you do not have to be an AARP member. You don't have to be 50 plus. This contest is open to anyone 21 and older.
Great. No, this seems like a really great opportunity to highlight all the goodness of our veterans. So as Carole said, think of all the people that are making such great impact within the community, and make sure to, visit the website. Carole, are there any tips that you can share for those looking to submit nominations to this contest?
Yes, Amber, absolutely. So I'm glad you're giving me an opportunity to, put a few tips in. So one thing, you can nominate one person per day. So that means you have up until December 31st to nominate as many people as you can. So if you know more than one veteran who is doing great things in their community, then, nominate one today and one tomorrow and one the next day until the contest closes. So that's something that we've seen with previous contests, that people will submit a group, and you cannot submit a group. We're only acknowledging the individual. So if you have a group that's doing amazing work, then what we recommend you do is nominate each person in that group. So, if you have an awesome group, wouldn't it be great if at least one person, could win? You're submitting multiple entries, so that gives, different people a chance to win. So that's one tip. The other tip to keep in mind is the criteria. So when it comes to the nomination, it needs to be a veteran who is doing something in their community. And that something could be working with pets or working with seniors or kids, because we're acknowledging the work of the veteran in their community. When it comes to a volunteer, the volunteer work has to be supporting veterans. So if you know of a volunteer who might be helping at a local VA medical center or is delivering groceries to veterans, that work specifically has to be about veterans in order for that submission to be accepted. So I want to keep that in mind, because we are getting some submissions where people might submit someone who's active duty, and they're talking more about the service of the active duty member, and that is not in alignment with the criteria of the contest. Now, if you have an active duty member who happens to volunteer outside of their active duty, and that volunteer work supports veterans, then that's acceptable. So say, for example, we have someone who's active duty in the Army, and, in their off time, which might not be often, but, they really want to give back to their community. And they say, you know what, I want to go to the local VFW and help some of the veterans there, whether it's maybe some physical therapy or, working out, or just being a companion to them. That is viable under the contest, because it adheres to the rule of a volunteer who is giving back to veterans. But again, when it comes to veterans that are doing something in the community, it is okay for them to be a veteran and doing different things, giving back in their community, but they can't be just active duty and giving back. That's not going to, that doesn't align with the criteria. So just make sure you're looking at the rules and that your submission aligns with the rules. And I also encourage that if people have any questions, we do have an email address, and the email address is createthegood@aarp.org.
Great. And our producer will probably be putting that up on the screen very shortly. Carole, can somebody self-nominate themselves?
Absolutely, they
Okay.
can. Don't wait for somebody else to nominate you, because we know we have amazing veterans and we have amazing volunteers. And I know for some people it's hard to talk about yourself, but this is the perfect time to do it. So we want to make sure that we hear about all the great things that you're doing in your community. So absolutely, if you're doing great work, you can self-nominate.
Great. And Carole, looks like we have another question from Jim. Is there a word limit for the essay that accompanies the nomination?
Yes. So the limit is 500 words.
500 words. Okay. And is there an option for them to attach any articles or letters of support for this nomination?
No. So the only attachment would be the photo. And we definitely encourage you to do the photo of yourself or the nominator. I'm sorry, the person who's being nominated. So we want to actually, have that frame of reference of who you're talking about. We get to see them, as well as the essay that really explains what they're doing in the community.
Great. And Carole, when will the winner be chosen or announced?
So we're looking at mid-February to make the announcement of the winners.
Okay, great. Any final comments, Carole, regarding this really great contest, as this might be the first time that somebody has heard about it, or any comments about, the criteria, or maybe what would make a good nomination?
So I think what is helpful with a good nomination is for people to not just say, hey, this person's doing good work in the community. Like, what are they doing? What is the impact that they are making, whether it's on the community or other people? Is there a way to quantify what they're doing? Did they maybe serve meals to X number of people? I think a great example, we had the Show Your Love volunteer contest earlier this year. One of the categories was around volunteers who are supporting COVID relief efforts. And it just so happened that this volunteer worked at a VA medical center in Texas. And so it was interesting because what she did, her name is Barbara Abbey. I want to give her a shout out. She works for, she volunteers with South Texas VA Health Center. And she was, she only was there, I think, like a month normally. And when COVID hit, she stayed longer. She extended her stay. She's actually from New York, and she would volunteer in Texas. And what really made her stand out as someone who was nominated, and what eventually was why she won, is because it talked about the hours. As a volunteer, she was working 12-hour shifts to really support the staff and the veterans at the health center. She would be one of the temperature checkers. So at the entrances, she was making sure that people were getting their temperatures checked, which means she was in the front lines. She also supported the staff by making sure that they got meals, and she was the one that went out and got meals donated so that the workers, the healthcare workers at the facility, were able to be fed and didn't have to go out and come back and things like that. So she really went above and beyond. And so that's a perfect example of a volunteer, a civilian, who was supporting veterans, and how she went above and beyond, and including that information. Again, if there's numbers that you can include, or just ways that that person really makes an impact on others, not just the quality of what they do, but it is helpful if there is some type of quantifier that you can add.
Absolutely. And I know our viewers, and also too, if you're, seeing this during the replay, we all know a veteran that definitely gives back to the community. So that was a really great example, Carol. We have another question. So how has AARP promoted this besides this particular presentation? It's such a wonderful contest.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're promoting it on the Create the Good website as well as in social media. I know that the AARP member benefits newsletter also listed the contest. We have Idealist. If people are familiar with the website Idealist, they recently did an article about this that included the contest, as well as I believe there was a newsletter that went out to veterans from the VA, from Veteran Affairs, that also included a mention of the contest. So we try to spread this far and wide, and we definitely ask that you all as well share it with your network. The more the merrier. We want to get as many entries as possible. And I think I do want people to know that even if people don't win, what we also try to do is still tell those stories of the people that were nominated. So after the contest is over, what we do is we take those stories and we actually share them in social media. So on the Create the Good Facebook page, for example, we are nearing almost 500,000 likes to our Facebook page. So we do have a very large community of people who are interested in volunteerism and giving back. And so once the contest closes and we announce the winner, we do want to give a little bit of, as we say, shine or acknowledgement to the winners. But then once we get through that process of acknowledging the winners, we still want to acknowledge some of the other people whose stories were amazing and they just didn't happen to win for this contest. And so we will continue to surface up and post about some of the other entries that we receive. So I also want to share that as a tip as well, is that, entering the contest, yes, the prize is great. And we do see so many amazing stories, but, we only have 3 prizes. We will do the, best we can in acknowledging the winners and really getting them out there. But we also want to reinforce and support those other nominations and all the great work that veterans and volunteers who support veterans are doing in their community. So we will tell the story after the contest is over. So if you have great stories, again, don't be afraid to submit them. They don't have to be perfect. We just want to hear all the great work that people are doing in your community.
Absolutely. And Carol, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I know, some of our viewers who are watching this live or in replay are probably already thinking about somebody in their network that would be a great fit to nominate for this really amazing contest. So if you do have somebody in mind to nominate, as Carol said, you can visit below the website, the createthegood.org/honoring heroes. And then if we can also put up the email address. I know Carol stated if you have any questions, feel free to email AARP below. And thank you so much, Carol. This was amazing, and just a really great way that AARP is trying to highlight all the goodness that our veterans are doing in the local community. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Amber. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And thank you again for joining us. And as a friendly reminder, please feel free to share this video on your Facebook.com page or send the link to YouTube, especially if you know of a veteran that would be a good nominee. For upcoming events coming up December 4th, AARP Movie Night, Team Marco, December 4th, 9th, one-day university lecture. So that is all about the Beatles, the 60s, and popular culture. December 9th, again, AARP Movie Night, Sylvie's Love. And then December 16th, another day, one-day lecture all about music and the brain. So all of these free opportunities can be found at the AARP Wisconsin website or at the phone number listed below. And please join us next Thursday as we talk with our Wisconsin advocacy team. They're going to be giving us information, next steps with the elected officials. As we know, the election has passed, but there's still a lot for us to talk about. So that'll be next Thursday, noon Central Time, either at the facebook.com page or our YouTube page. We want to thank you again so much for joining us today, and please be safe, and we'll see you next Thursday.